Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. It's Friday, April 25th, 2025, 4/25/25. Hi, my name is Justin Harris. I'm coach at Team Wilpers and running you all through our Spring Run Challenge 2025. We're on week number 4, and this is our athlete briefing. So, a couple things just to plug a little bit. First, follow us on our socials. All right, Team Wilpers on Instagram and Facebook. You can also find us for those running the challenge. The Team Wilpers running group on Facebook is where we all interact and encourage each other, answer questions, highlight what we're doing in there and whatnot. So it's a great place, great community, and I advise signing up. If you want to follow me, it's Jay Harris Coaching on Instagram and Facebook. Okay, other thing to talk about is to get the most out of this. We have our all access plan for $10 a month. You have access to strength written specifically for this program by Coach Ava Fagan, one of our strength coaches. And she writes the programs for Matt, which is really cool. So you get access to that. And then you have the ability to adjust your difficulties and stuff like that. So if you want to try it more difficult or you need a walk jog option, which is new for this challenge, you have the options to move around a little bit, plus access to other plans and whatnot. Okay, so little housekeeping to start off with. I'm seeing everyone starting to get into the groove. I know I might be just a little bit different than Coach Ferry. He's done an awesome job getting this stuff off the ground. And one thing I'm noticing when I jump in the Facebook groups and stuff like that is, and some of the questions I'm getting here or there, is I'm seeing one of the things that is not my favorite, and maybe because it's from a control standpoint, but really it comes from a point of proper loading and progressive loading, which we'll talk about for what's coming in week 4, and that's doing extra. Okay, so I think a lot of our Team Wilpers challenge members, and certainly our one-on-one clients, are the crew that would do whatever it took for that extra sticker in elementary school, right? We're always about going above and beyond. I'm sure we have a lot of high GPAs. We have a lot of successful people, and a lot of self-identifying as type A. And this doing extra thing, it's kind of one of these things where it helps to a certain degree. It's like an inverted N. Like, there's a portion when you're a beginner where a little extra helps sometimes. There's probably a Goldilocks period of, maybe it worked out for you, but then there's a point where it bites you in the butt. And we don't always learn our lesson when it bites us in the butt. All right. And so doing extra in this plan, you can always step up, join all access, step up to more difficult. But doing extra just because you felt good, like, the whole point is to finish feeling good. The point is not to be absolutely exhausted and shelled on the ground. One thing I find with my one-on-one clients and private coaching is I'm often pulling the reins back, and people are like, how am I going to run better if I'm running slower? How am I going to run better if I'm doing less? And what I'm really trying to do, and what all our coaches at Team Wilpers are trying to do, and Matt talks about it all the time. He just made a post today on Instagram about recovery and stuff, and we'll get into that more. But it's really about having the ability to absorb what you're doing. And if you're really sore the next day, you did too much. You bit off more than you can chew. If you're getting more and more fatigued, more and more exhausted, like, there's a certain level where it's expected. There's times when it's expected, but be careful doing extra. And I would recommend, why don't you get through the week, and instead of adding extra intervals when they're not planned, is just see how the week goes on. And then if you felt good, then maybe you step up to difficult. And the difficult is set at what the volume I give my personal clients. And I might do that for, weeks or months, and getting it up there. And they always want more. I've heard, I want to do double. I would do triple what you've done. And yet I've seen people PR by 10 minutes in the marathon and plus doing less. All right. So it's a principle I'll talk about down the road, but be careful doing extra. You're not going to get a gold medal from me by doing extra. Follow the plan, and this allows to ensure that what we are designing here is going to take you to the right destination. When you start going off and do extra, there's less guarantee that you're going to have success. You might have more success, but it's just a lower probability that we can guarantee it. So be mindful of that. That's my big housekeeping thing. So be careful doing extra. All right. So, all right, let's talk about what's to come. All right. So we've gotten in our structure, and you can move these days around. It's not advised, but if you have to, but if you're moving things around, make sure you're having space in between quality sessions. The quality sessions are VO2 max, all right, speed play, all right, which are Mondays, progression runs, which are on Wednesday, and your long run, which is scheduled on Saturday. So if you do more, if you're moving things around, like you can move them in different orders, but you need to keep that kind of spacing to get the most out of this plan. All right. But what's to come in week 4? All right. So next week we are doing what's called the unloading week or a back off week. All right. I call it unloading because technically, I'm trying to stack pressure on everyone onto the body, the musculoskeletal system. So the bones, ligaments, tendons, joints, all that. I'm trying to put a little pressure mentally, psychologically. There's a little bit more fatigue. All right, and a little bit more at a cellular level on mitochondria, capillary bed development, physiology, stuff like that, right? Not trying to sound too complicated, but on those 3 factors, we're trying to systematically load you up. So, each day we're trying to load a little bit more and modulate, all right? But week 1, we introduce things. Week 2, we load a little bit more difficulty on with volume, all right? And maybe a little bit of intensity. Week 3, we add a little bit more. And then week 4, we unload the volume. So when I talk about, give this analogy that we're sponges, right? What if we look at it, Monday we squeeze, Tuesday we let go a little bit, Wednesday we squeeze, not so hard as Monday, and then Thursday we let go a little bit, Friday we let go a little bit, Saturday we squeeze it pretty good, and then Sunday we let go totally so we can absorb what's going on, right? Well, that's on the micro level, but on a macro, on a bigger thing, we can look at week 1, we squeeze a bit. Week 2, we squeeze a little bit more. Week 3, we squeeze a little bit more. Right now, the sponge is starting to get a little bit dry. It's not totally dry. We could do more. We could go on another couple weeks, but we cannot guarantee when you're going to be negatively affected. So we want to stay ahead of the game here, okay? So on week 4, we let go a little bit, all right? And how we let go, I will get into, all right? But the point of this week is it's not about doing more. You're not better to do more. You're actually being counterproductive, all right? We're trying to absorb the training that we're doing and by backing off, all right? And why we're doing this is so that we can avoid potential injury, illness, all right, weakened immune system, or like staleness, sluggishness, right? So, the human body can only go so many weeks of upping, all right? And so by doing it in week 4, backing off, we're getting ahead of this, okay? What this is called is progressive overloading. Matt talks about it quite a bit. All our coaches talk about it. We're trying to progressively overload you. So, we're going up, down a little bit, up, down a little bit, up, down a little bit. So after several cycles, couple quarters, a couple years, we're ending up higher and higher where we want to be. And when we're injured, sick, or anything, we're losing fitness. We're kind of going backwards a bit. Now, it's not the end of the world because the body remembers it. Once we've been there once, we can get there again. But often people now rush into it, right? And so patience is going to get us. We all want to be a millionaire, have millions of dollars, all right? But we don't get there overnight, right? We invest, all right? We save money, we make that money work for us. Well, it's just like training, all right? We don't know when we're going to get the big returns, all right? We kind of do. The experts know when, all right? And this is what we're trying to do here. Okay, so how do we do an unloading week? What do we cut back, all right? So when we look at training, I try to think of it as, 3 dials to play with. I say I'm like Dr. Dre at the producer's board with all the bells and whistles, all the dials, sliders, everything, right? And I'm trying to get a certain sound out of my clients and you all, right? This is what we're all trying to do. We're trying to dial these things. The major things that we're doing is volume, right? How much duration, distance are we doing? We're looking at intensity, okay? how much intensity, all right? How hard are we going? What zone are we in, all right? Then what we're also looking at is frequency. How often a week are we training? How often a week are we going intense? Which 3 quality days a week, past that, it's hard, right? But we look at frequency and all these things. And the combination of all of them gives us what we call density, all right? How dense is the training? Well, in an unloading week, what we're going to back off to make it less dense, we can tune down everything, but then it's really like there's not much there, right? It's too little, right? And we feel discombobulated. You know, there's hormonal kind of rhythms and circadian rhythms that are down-regulated, and we kind of want to stay away from that. So what we do in unloading week is we back off volume and we maintain intensity. All right, that equation: volume, intensity, frequency. All right, frequency stays the same. All right, you can get it all by, you know, kind of taking an extra day off. So instead of training 4 days a week, you train 3 instead of 5, 4. You know, that's immediately we reduced frequency, but also volume. All right, but we don't really want to adjust intensity. All right, and I say this, I want to be very clear here for you all, is when we do intensity, all right, just because we're backing off doesn't mean you give more intensity. If it's multiplication, these things compound, right? So if I backed off volume and you increase intensity, you made it just as dense, if not more dense. And we're trying to overall reduce density. So don't run faster, don't go faster, don't go harder. Hit the same paces and it feels easier. That's where we want to be. Now, an unloading week, all right, so we reduce volume, leave intensity the same, and you can get volume by frequency taken away a day, something like that. I haven't done that, but that's something you can do. All right, so do not adjust intensity. Keep it the same. All right, don't get greedy. One thing I want to note on unloading weeks is they don't really show during the week. So like you'll kind of feel the same, maybe a little bit better, but it's really the following week, okay? So week 5, when you get into it, you'll be like, oh man, I feel good. And as you go into the week, you feel better and better. All right, that's when you know it's a delayed effect. That's when you know you did it properly and it's working. And it's hard to kind of double click on that, like, oh, I feel good. You know, I don't know what it is. And if you go back 7 days, what did you do? Well, I was reducing volume. So we'll be good there. All right. So you're not going to lose fitness on the unloading week. You actually gain it. It's called the principle is called supercompensation. So if we imagine this is homeostasis, when we train, we reduce down, we get worse. All right. And so this is why we squeeze the sponge, we go down. All right. Well, when we're down, we have to absorb. All right, we have to recover a little bit, so we go up, but we don't quite go all the way up. Then we train harder again, and we just keep knocking ourselves down. We need sometimes during, you know, a time during the week or two to try to get back to that line. And then we need an unloading week, all right, really to make sure we get back there. And then eventually we get better and better. In a training block, we go through a training block, and at the end of the training block, I like a total week off, you know, depending on how many weeks it was. If we're talking like not 8 weeks, but like 16 or something, maybe you need 8 weeks. That's when you make the biggest gains, okay? So you're not losing fitness. Don't be worried, all right? If you don't like taking days off, it's a great opportunity to take a day off. I've coached multiple people who have come to me stagnant, stale. They know they need a day off. They haven't taken a day off in 2 years. And immediately we get to that and we work through it. And there's a lot of like kind of mental struggles with like, oh, but I'm losing fitness. I'm not moving the needle forward. And eventually we get better. Okay. All right. So where are we doing the reductions? I don't do it everywhere. All right. I don't want to tune down everything. All right. Then it's going to be really less dense. I just want it to be a little bit less dense. So what we're doing is we are adjusting speed play. That is changing. So that's being reduced by a couple intervals, all right? And so we're going kind of back to where we started on week 1, all right? So because you're doing less, do not increase the intensity. Do it the same. Ease into them, be progressive, be strong and smooth, focus on it, okay? And you don't need to be faster. I want to make this clear, okay? The other place I reduce volume is on the long run, okay? All right, so we pull back to week 1, and because we did week 1, we have a little fatigue. Then week 2, we added more fatigue. Week 3, we added even more. So even if we repeated week 1, right, there's still fatigue there. So we need to back off, all right? On the long run, one thing I want to say is if you end up taking a day off, it doesn't mean you should do extra on the long run. You're just getting a little bit extra recovery. We just don't want to reduce everywhere, all right? So follow the plan, back off a little bit on speed play and long run. And if you need a little bit extra, If something's bothering you somewhere, these things don't go away. Try to back off a little bit. All right, focus on restoration. So sleep, try to get to bed, in bed 30 minutes sooner. Try to get off your phone an hour earlier. All right, focus on hydration. All right, your urine should have a slight tint of yellow. All right, it shouldn't be clear. All right, I'm not a nutritionist, but I'm not going to get into that, but that's something you should look for. Eat veggies, fruits, get whole foods in. All right, make sure you get some protein in. All right, it's not time to like just lose all the structure. All right, it's a time to really help your body recover. Okay. All right, so that is what's coming ahead for next week. I do want to plant a seed, and I'm going to focus on this on the next call, but I live in the Northeast in New York, all right, and it's starting to get warmer out, and it's, long time coming, it's been happening down south in Texas and Florida where my clients are at, and West Coast and whatnot. But one thing I'm going to touch on, I'm just going to plant the seed here and talk about it more, but is how the heat influences your pace. All right, I've created a heat adjusted pace calculator on my website that people can play around with, and it comes from one study. But you'll be surprised at how much heat and dew point influence your pace. It could be up to 45 seconds a mile, all right, which is kind of crazy to think about. So I'm just planting that seed for later to think about how heat influences your pace. And this is why I'm asking you a lot and describing really clearly of how I think you should feel, because the effort doesn't change whether it's cold or hot out. All right, we maintain the same effort, but when it's hot out, we're going to reduce our pace a bit just naturally if we run the same effort. We can't keep the same paces all the time, because our effort's going to really increase. All right, and you're going to learn a lesson the hard way. So just planting the seed about the heat adjusted pace calculator and what that influences. All right. So last thing I'm going to end with here, and then I'll get into some questions and stuff. And unfortunately, I don't read Russian. I'm sorry for whoever that is, but we're going to get into coaching principle number 4. All right. So my first one is commitment cuts through the crap. All right. Don't focus on motivation, focus on commitment. My second one was embrace the journey, all right, to mastery. We're going to figure this all out. And last week, it was about minimal effective dose. It doesn't mean minimal. If 100 grams of ibuprofen work, we shouldn't be taking, or 100 milligrams, 100 grams would be a lot. 100 milligrams, 1,000 milligrams isn't 10x better. It can be actually worse, right? So we're trying to find the right dose of training that we can adapt to and absorb, all right? So principle number 4 is be your biggest fan. Let that sink in, okay? All right. I often ask my one-on-one clients, and we ask our clients of like, why are we doing this? How do we define success? What is happiness to you? We do this to enjoy it. It's not easy all the time. There are a lot of tough moments in being an endurance athlete and endurancing, but in order to get through it, you need to be your biggest fan. That doesn't mean we're cocky out loud, but it means inside we need to be our biggest fan and supporter, all right? Often we are our harshest critic, and I can think about it all the time. I'm guilty of it in certain domains, and even in this, all right? But be your biggest fan. So talk to yourself like you would a loved one, all right? Talk to yourself like you would a good friend going through the same thing. It's funny how we're super encouraging and supportive like we see on the Facebook group, but if I also see people being self-deprecating and negative when they didn't do well, right? And so let's imagine talking to ourselves like we're talking to a loved one, or even like your younger self. What did your younger self need to hear, right? So be your biggest fan, not your harshest critic, because ain't nobody got time for that, right? We're all here on this planet to enjoy what we're doing, to work hard, to progress, right? And if we're our harshest critic and the glass is half full, well, this is where we get into trying to maximize everything and try to game everything and try to quantify everything. And it's not just, endurancing doesn't quite work that way all the time. So be your biggest fan. It's super important. And it's inside, right? Inside your heart, inside up here, all right? If you believe in what you're doing, and you ask questions and you try to learn and you tried your best, that's good enough, all right? When we get into working off insecurities and being our harshest critic, this is when we make silly mistakes that we look back on and be like, oh man, I wasn't doing it from the right place. So be your biggest fan. That's principle number 4 for me. It's super important, not your harshest critic. Okay. So that's it. Unloading week, more is not better. Don't try to increase more intensity because the volumes are being reduced. We want to absorb the past 3 weeks so that we stay ahead of illness, injury, staleness, and stagnation. All right. We don't want to be there. All right. And that's it for this athlete briefing. So I'll go through and see some. Oh, we got someone from Pakistan. Hello. I see some, I think it's Russian. And someone anonymous. The sun today was so hot, it's not even summer yet. Yeah, well, we'll get into it next week. Being adapted to heat and heat adaptation, it takes a little while. But the good thing is the more fit you are, the better you are to handle heat. So we'll kind of talk about that a little bit to get ahead of what's going to happen in the summer and whatnot. So anyway, any other questions popping up while I'm waiting? Check out our all access. You'll get better resources and whatnot to really utilize what we're doing here. Join us on Facebook at Team Wilpers and Team Wilpers Running group is the group name. Find us on Instagram at Team Wilpers. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at J Harris Coaching. And yeah, we'll see you soon. See you next week. Bye.